This is a Huret Duopar Eco taken off the bike, and if you were to pull off the access cover, what you'll find is a hex fitting screw, okay, and it has this plastic thrust washer which is useless. You can replace that with a 10mm narrow pedal washer instead, and that'll work just fine. As a matter of fact, it works great. In most cases it'll work great. On the other side of this you have this B pivot. It has extents in it, and there are slots in here where this will fit in on the derailleur, and this is that when you screw it in to your bike, it fits in the B setting. So the problem is this. Let's take a look at this mounting bolt here, and if you look carefully you can see light through the end of this, okay, and if you look carefully at this you can see that it's black here, it's silver here, and if we were to turn it over, there's a 4mm hex fitting here. Does this tell you anything? It should. For one thing, it should tell you that there are two pieces here. There's this black finish and then there's this silver finish, okay? But if you look on the other side and there's this 4mm, well, that means there's another part here. You might not believe this, but this is a 3-piece screw. There are 3 pieces here. The 6mm, the 10mm threaded screw, and the 4mm screw on the inside. And this is what baffles everybody who has a Duopar. So if we put a 4mm here, get our 6mm wrench here, we can unscrew this, right? And you can see the 4mm part coming out because it's countersunk. Well, this is how you adjust your Duopar derailleur so that when you screw this in, if you screw this in tight, it freezes and you can't pivot this. So what most people do then is they screw this in tight, then they loosen it up a little bit so that it can pivot, and then they ride around. If this were in an aluminum frame, you're going to need to go to the machine shop and take the wheels off the bike, take this screw in, take the frame in, and have the machinist put in a stainless steel threaded insert, because the threads on your frame are stripped. So the way this works is you would screw this in your derailleur. You would screw it in as you normally would, okay? You'd screw it in until it bottoms out, then you would back it up a little bit so that it pivots, and then you would come in on the frame side and tighten up the set screw. And then you would test it. If there's binding, then you would loosen the set screw a little bit and unscrew the 6mm fitting and then tighten up the set screw. If on the other hand it was too sloppy, then you would unscrew the set screw, tighten up the 6mm, and then until the slop was out, and then tighten up the 3mm, the 4mm set screw, and check for the action. I don't think many people know about this, but this is one of the biggest problems with the Huret, is this little thing here. And I didn't know about it because I didn't, all the bikes that I received that had a Duopar on it, I took them off and put a Suntour or Shimano derailer on. I didn't even mess with this. Until we got these Cannondales, that's when I focused in to see what's up and realized this is a real mess. So I'm going to show you in the rest of the video on the bike how to make that adjustment. But now you know how to do this. So to start with, get your 6mm hex wrench and put it in the outer hex fitting, and get your 3mm hex wrench and put it in from the inside of the frame into the set screw. Now, I already loosened this up because you need to get the rear wheel off. So there's a lot of play here, okay? From this point, all you have to do is tighten up the 3mm, and you can see that there's still some play in it. And so you have to now just kind of fiddle around, loosening and tightening the left and the right to get the play out, right? So you wiggle your derailleur till there's very little play, right? And that you can still rotate this. If you can't, then loosen up your set screw just a little bit and tighten up your anchor bolt, right? And make sure that you still have some pivoting action here. And then once you're satisfied with that, tighten up the lock screw. Check again. Alright. And this still rotates a little slowly, but that's okay. And then tighten everything up. And now you've got a rear derailleur where you're able to get the rear wheel off because you can pull this back. Once you're riding, this B action stays in place. Because there's a pivot and linkage here, right, you want to make sure that you maintain this by keeping it clean and lubricated. This is just stamped steel. There are no bushings here. So when this gets rusted or worn, you pretty much need to just replace the whole derailleur. Okay? But at least now you've got a derailleur where you can get your rear wheel off. If you have a Duopar Eco, it says so right here, Duopar Eco on the side of the derailleur. And so you might need to use a wire brush to clean it up. You find that it's difficult to take the wheel off the bike, and it's very hard to put the wheel back on. And you'll notice also that you're not able to pivot the derailleur. It's stuck in place. Let me demonstrate this. Okay, now it's frozen in place and it will not budge, right? So if you have this situation, then this is what you need. I'm using a 6mm Allen wrench and a 3mm Allen wrench. If you have the condition where the derailleur won't pivot, that means a 3mm Allen set screw on the inside of the frame is too tight. So you need to loosen this up a little bit. Right, now you have some play here. Back out the 6mm a little bit more, right, and then tighten up the 3mm. Now this will give you some excess play, right? So then you need to fiddle around with this, screwing in the 6, tightening up the 3 until you have rotational movement but less play, right? So tighten up the 6, tighten up the 3. And at some point in time, you'll end up with a happy medium where both are tight and the derailleur still rotates. Now give it a good, make it both snug. There's no play, right? The 3mm is tight, the 6mm is tight, and you have B-axis adjustment. Now you can take your tire off and install it. If you have other problems because there's linkage here, make sure that it's lubricated. However, if this is rusted, I think you're probably going to need to replace that derailleur and put on a Suntour or a Shimano, because this is cheap stamped steel. It's riveted. There are no, as far as I can tell, no bushings in here. And so if it's not nice and clean and lubricated and this gets rusted, you'll end up with a lot of play, and there's no way that you're going to get good shifting action. I hope this helps you. Happy cycling.